The year was 1985. Things in this nation weren't perfect, but the American people still had their liberty, for the most part. We could wake up in the morning, go to work or class, and not worry about our basic everyday liberties being taken away by the government. We never in a million years dreamed that the government would try to take control of the littlest aspects of our daily lives. Flash forward 25 years, and things are a lot different. I'm not talking about cell phones, video games, and cars. I'm talking about government control. In the last 10 years, our government has gone out of control. Our government has bought out businesses. They have increased spending domestically and foreign. But the most unthinkable thing happened just 1 month ago today. On March 23, 2010, President Barack Obama signed into law H.R. 3590. That law effectively began the complete and total government regulation of our healthcare system. My goal today is to show you some of the specific things that are in that law that hamper our liberties, and to briefly explain to you why that law is unconstitutional. This law takes away specific liberties from us. This law takes away our ability to control how we spend our money. That is a fundamental principle in a free market economy, which we are supposed to live in. We are supposed to be able to go to work, make money, and spend it however we choose. This isn't going to be the case anymore, because now we have to buy healthcare, and we have to pay for everyone's healthcare. The government, if you don't want healthcare, you just have to pay a $750 fine every year. That's found in Section 1501 of H.R. 3590, and it says that for those who wish to remain uninsured, they just have to pay a $750 fine. Now, in a free market system, that's based off of the people should know what they want to spend their money on, not the government. We are supposed to have that right to decide what we want to spend our money on. And now, if we don't want to spend our money on something that the government wants us to, we have to give the government money. That's not right. Later on in the bill, towards the end of the bill, between sections 9008 and 9017, the government just goes crazy and starts taking money away from everyone. In section 9008, it states that the government has the right, the authority, to take $2.3 billion per year away from pharmaceutical companies. Now, that might sound okay because, yeah, pharmaceutical companies have loads of money, they're rich, they don't need it. But think about this. $2.3 billion, that's going to be jobs, and that's going to be research and development. Jobs is very important because unemployment is still a major problem in the United States. But research and development, that hits me a little more personally, because pharmaceutical companies are supposed to research and develop new drugs, new ways to treat people who are sick. If they're losing $2.3 billion a year just to the government's just stepping in and taking this money, if they're stealing this money, then how is it that they're going to research as much as they would have? The next section, section 9009, the government continues by taking $2 billion away from medical device makers. This is just as bad. Medical devices range for anything from insulin pumps to hearing aids. Anything that you use that would help you with your medical problem, any kind of device, that is what is made by these medical device makers. And these companies are going to have to give $2 billion a year to the government. That's ridiculous. Again, it's going to increase unemployment, and it's going to limit the advancements in the medical technologies field, which America has succeeded in the last 60 years. The next section, 9010, the government takes $7 billion away from insurance companies. Now that one seems a little strange to me, seeing as how they're already penalizing the insurance companies. This is like a double whammy. Because now, based on this law, the government states that all insurance companies have to accept everyone. They can't turn anyone down based on prior medical history. So that means that your great-grandpa, who's 95 years old, has smoked 3 packs a day since he was 12, has lung cancer in both of his lungs. Well, he's going to have coverage by somebody. They have to. They can't turn him down. Now, that fundamentally takes away these private companies' rights to choose who or who they don't want to support or who they don't want to cover. And on top of that, the government's taking away $7 billion from these insurance companies. Again, jobs and coverage. That's going to affect their coverage because they don't have as much money to give health care to people. And then 9015 gets a little more personal. And this begins an aspect of class warfare, which is described by Karl Marx in his Communist Manifesto. Karl Marx was all for the redistribution of wealth by taking away from the rich to give to the poor, kind of like Robin Hood. But in 9015, if you and your spouse file a joint tax return and you make $250,000 between the two of you, which, I mean, that's a lot of money. That's definitely upper class. You have to pay an additional 0.5% on your income tax. That's just in this law. The government's been talking about doing this in other things, but they just kind of snuck that in this law, and it passed. And that is class warfare. In 9017, they tax an additional 5% on cosmetic surgery. Now, at first thought, I didn't think that was too big of a deal, because when I think of cosmetic surgery, I think of the spoiled brats in Hollywood that just get boob jobs. But that's not what cosmetic surgery is all about. Cosmetic surgery can range from the people who are in car accidents, in fires, that need reconstructive surgery just to try to live out a normal life. And so, if these people want to live out their normal lives, they have to pay an additional 5% tax on top of their already tremendous medical bills. Now that I've told you a little bit about some of the specific liberties that this law takes away from you, I want to briefly describe to you why it is unconstitutional. This law is unconstitutional simply because the power to regulate healthcare is not given to the government in the United States Constitution anywhere. If you loosely interpret the Constitution, you might be able to make the argument that in Article 1, the legislative branch is given the power to promote general welfare. But promoting general welfare, or providing general welfare, and regulating an entire private industry are two completely different things. So this law is completely unconstitutional simply because it's not, the power to regulate isn't in the Constitution. Which brings me to my next point, probably my most important point. Who has the power to regulate healthcare? Well, that's obviously the states. The states have the power. Because according to the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution or prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. This means that since the power to regulate government health care is not given to the federal government, it is reserved to the states by the 10th Amendment. So all these states that are filing lawsuits against the federal government have a valid argument because they are basing their argument off of the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution. And also, in the Declaration of Independence, we are guaranteed the right to the pursuit of happiness. It's an unalienable right, is how it's worded. How are we guaranteed that right to the pursuit of happiness if the government's telling us how we can or can't spend our money? In conclusion, today I've showed you some specific laws and specific things that this law does that takes away our individual liberties. And I've briefly explained to you why it's unconstitutional. But what can you do about it? Well, that's pretty simple. You can vote. We all have the right to vote, and that is the most important, crucial thing you can do. We need to all go out and vote for people who are willing to stand up to the tyrannical federal government, to stand up to the people who are for state government spending, the people who are taking away our individual liberties every day by passing laws like this. This is just one law, and it's a big one. It's 1,100 pages long. And this is just one law. We need to put people into power who will change things, who are not going to support things like this. And we have the right to vote. We have the opportunity to vote. We have the obligation.